where it's like you want to find a certain street, right? And you can go with your car and find the street, but if you had a little map, you can reach it quickly, directly. That's all. That's all. Okay, shall we?
Briefly, in terms of that we can understand the parable of the talents that Christ told, where he told, do you know the parable of the talents, or shall I explain?
Parable of the?
Parable of the talents.
No, I didn't know what it is.
Well, there were...
Give me your interpretation of it, and I'll reinterpret your interpretation.
All that happened was that when the master gave his servant
The question was, when we face our weaknesses, do we get some nasty surprises?
No. When you face your weaknesses, it's not a nasty surprise. It's a very uplifting experience. Because, firstly, to be able to face your weakness, you require a certain amount of strength. And facing the weakness and recognizing the weakness, you are activating the strength that is within you. And the very act of activating the strength is exhilarating, uplifting. Always. Always.
Why is it a strain trying to be good?
Why?
Why is it a strain trying to be good?
Why is it a strain trying to be? Don't try, just be. It is the trying that produces the strain. We don't try, we just be good. If we can condition our minds into things which are not good, then we can also condition our minds into things that is good, until it becomes such a natural, spontaneous way of living that no trying is required. Spontaneity is there. Sometimes too much trying and improper trying can lead to inhibitions and repressions.
You mentioned the conscious effort in the waking state.
True. There must be a conscious effort in the waking state. Right, but how to make the conscious effort? How? Could the conscious effort lead to inhibitions or repressions? Or could the conscious effort lead to realizations? There lies the art of discrimination and the skill in life and the skill in living and the skill in effort. Okay. If you believe in a good circle, there could be a vicious circle. I haven't come across one yet, though. No, you can't break anything. Good can overpower any evil. Oh yes. Oh yes. You can break it, yes. By what? By practicing your meditations properly and regularly, earnestly and sincerely. I can't see the person who's talking.
Oh, she's around the corner.
Oh, I see. Hello.
We didn't hear the last one.
Sorry, if you term a vicious circle, then something stops you breaking it. And that which stops you breaking it is what stops you.
True.
So
Yes.
what stops you?
Stopping you.
So what's breaking?
Breaking you. No, that is not a question, it's a conundrum. It's a riddle, actually. But I know what you're trying to get.
But there are certain, I would say that time breaks it.
There is actually speaking no vicious circle. Vicious circles could be very, very imaginary, and they could be hallucinations too. Now we first have to develop the power of discrimination to know what constitutes the vicious circle, and once we can discriminate or find out or unfathom the constituents of the vicious circle, then only can we determine what the vicious circle is. And after finding the constituents of the vicious circle, then the sting The very discovery will take the sting of the vicious circle away, when the vicious circle will remain a vicious circle no longer. Then we come to realize that it is because of our own personal weaknesses that we found this to be vicious. It was essentially good. So we train ourselves to find the goodness in things and not the viciousness. See? Yeah, okay. Vision sharpens one's wits. It could sharpen one's thinking power, and so I'm sure there'll be very profound questions this afternoon. You could see that even music, ordinary music, as apart from meditational sounds, could really take a person into far greater depths than just sitting still. Listening to good music is also a form of meditation. And you would find, we have a psychiatrist in South Africa, what's his name, Kiran? Gillis. Professor Lynn Gillis. He was here in London and he made some experiments for 3 months, and he found that by sitting down, listening to some quiet music for about half an hour, could drop the metabolic rate, lower the metabolic rate, and wonderful relaxation could be found even in listening to music. Fine. So how much more greater is it not when you are given a sound which is based upon your own personal vibration? How much greater relaxation can't you find, and how deeper can't you go within the very, very depths of your soul, and thereby find so much greater joy and peace? Good. Now, who will start us with questions?
Can you please explain to me how it appears that the nice people in this life seem to suffer most, and the evil type of people seem to get away with it?
Yes. The question is, how come it appears to our friend that the nice people suffer most and evil people seem to get away with it? Now, when we say get away with it, I wonder what they get away with. A person can get away with £1 million, but you can't get away from yourself. True. Now, what to our view could be pleasurable to someone else, we would say, oh, this man has a mansion and a few £1 million in the bank, so he must be very happy. That is our interpretation of a particular situation. It is an interpretation from our mind because we have wishful thinking. Please, if you don't mind. We have wishful thinking within us that if we had that mansion and £1 million and half a dozen Rolls Royces, that we would be happy. So, what we see in the other person that possesses this is just a projection of our own minds and thoughts. It is our own idea that owning this could make us happy. Good. So, our idea is necessarily conditioned by our thoughts and what we think could be happiness producing. This might not be so, because with every idea of possession, with every idea of a certain kind of attachment, greater and greater attachments are produced, and with greater and greater attachments, greater and greater unhappinesses are produced. For example, if a man has £1 million, he would always want to have 2 million. And once he has the 2 million, he is not satisfied, he will want 5. So, when it comes to material desires, there is always a greater and greater attachment formed, and with greater and greater attachment, greater and greater unhappiness is to be had. What is the way out of this impasse? How can we still have everything we desire and yet and also have happiness? We have found now that the man that owns all the mansions and millions and half a dozen Rolls Royces could be a very, very unhappy man. There's a lovely Indian story where this King Akbar wanted to find out who the happiest man in the world is. So he sent all his generals and of course his prime minister was Birbal all around the world to try and find a happy man. Whoever these generals and these soldiers and these learned men met, they asked certain strategic questions, vital questions, and they found that there was not a single person that was happy. They spoke to millionaires and multimillionaires and everyone that we think that were apparently, that appeared to be happy, but yet in the lives of everyone there was some form of unhappiness. Then in desperation the Prime Minister Birbal was coming back and he had to cross this river and he sees a man sitting on a rock and bathing himself and singing away, and Birbal thought, let me ask this beggar if he is happy. So of course with proper questioning Birbal found that here was a happy man, and yet this happy man did not possess a second shirt on his back. So the criteria of happiness is not the material or the materiality we are immersed in or material possessions, but we that live a modern 20th century life, we want to have possessions, and in having those possessions we also want happiness. So what to do? The answer can be very simple. The answer is very simple. People that believe in renunciation, people that have some ideas of unattachment, are not necessarily interpreting renunciation or unattachment or attachment in its proper sense or properly. They are not interpreting it properly. Because real renunciation means not to leave all this world and perhaps these worldly pleasures, some of them are good. I don't see anything wrong in going to listen to a lovely symphony. It's very pleasurable. I see nothing wrong in that. But yet I'm not attached to the symphony. Fine. I would find pleasure in having a beautiful meal, and I would find the same pleasure in the king's feast as well as in a dry piece of bread, because although I would enjoy for the moment, I am unattached to it. Many people have the idea that to be a renunciate means you become an ascetic. If you want to become an ascetic, if you have the temperament for that, by all means go and live up in the caves of the Himalayas or somewhere high up in the Alps, but not here on this beautiful boat on the River Thames. Okay, fine. So, we want to find the secret of how to be in the world and yet not of the world. And that is what all religion teaches us. And to find the secret of that, we necessarily have to find enjoyment in everything, yet not be involved in the enjoyment. How do we do that? How do we enjoy a thing? How do I enjoy this flower and yet not get so totally enwrapped, enmeshed, or trapped in this flower? The only way I can do that is by infusing the absolute into the relative. That is the secret. Now, through our meditational practices, what we are doing is exactly this. Through our meditational practices, whichever practice you might have, will naturally and definitely take you into the deeper levels of your mind. From the 10% conscious level, right through the various layers of existences of the 90% dormant mind, and through the greater and greater and greater subtleties of the mind, you touch the absolute. In touching the absolute, we return back from the reservoir loaded with that divinity, with that supreme energy, and we infuse it in our daily activity. So, by infusing the absolute through our meditational practices into practical daily living, we are having and experiencing a far superior quality of life. We are not denying anything to ourselves. We are not denying anything to ourselves, but we are adding on something beautiful to ourselves. Don't cry, baby. She's so lovely, isn't she? She's going to be quiet. No, she is tired. Would you like to close your eyes? I'll show you how to meditate. Good. Fine. So we are not loving. Are you listening? Yes. We are not detracting from the pleasures of our lives, but we are making ordinary pleasure even more pleasurable. That in that way we are infusing that which is divine. We are infusing the quality and the value of the absolute into our daily practical living, into our loving and living. With our practices, we become more loving, we become more giving, because the basic principles of our practices are to find a greater awareness of the mind and a greater expansion of the heart. So when the heart expands, what happens to us is that we become more loving to our homes, to our relatives, to our friends, and to the environment in general. Now, what happens is this, that when we become more loving, automatically we become more lovable. You see how it works? We have the complaints from many young people or elder people, nobody loves me. Now they blame the world for not being loved. Now that is very wrong. If a person becomes more loving himself, then automatically he becomes more lovable. Do you agree, young lady? Yes. Wouldn't you like to go upstairs? No, it's raining, isn't it? Good. Fine. So, the whole idea in finding the happiness, is to be able to infuse the divine in our daily activity. And then we do not, to come back to the question, we do not need to rely upon appearances, because appearances can be misleading. We think that those that are evil are having the best of it, is only our thought, is a projection of our thought. Meanwhile, those that are really evil might be suffering all kinds of consequences, which they too, to maintain appearances, are hiding it from us. Meanwhile, their hearts know the pangs that they are going through. The secret and the way out is through our meditational practices. Okay, nice. Are you happy? Good. Next. Yes. Whoever, there's 4 hands there.
I'd like to ask two quick questions actually. The first one.
Your questions might be quick, but the answers might take time.
All right. Well, I think I'm not sure that the first one is a meaningful question at all, so it might be very quick.
I'll answer it before you ask. Yes. Oh, she's laughing too.
It really follows on from the question I asked yesterday. If you are in a situation where you don't know what to do, but you feel that you should do something, but you don't really, you don't know what's your duty, you're not sure where your duty lies, can you give us some advice about how we should proceed, or is
how one
a
should,
silly question?
Yeah, how one should proceed. Firstly, we have to, you cannot make a blanket statement on it, because what could be a duty to you might be a drudgery to someone else. Right. But what you should be doing, someone else should not be doing. So, such a question should be a more specific question. Let the question be in such a manner that I have a wife, fine, and I am under obligation to my wife, and yet I'm in love with another woman. Here love pulls on one side and duty pulls on the other side. What am I to do? Right to Auntie Mary. Right. There one's own conscience come into play. There pros and cons have to be weighed. And they have to be so finely weighed. The balance has to be brought out in such a fine manner that no one is hurt. Sometimes one has to practice a little lesser evil to stave off a greater evil. Things happen. We are living in a practical world, and we are living not as pure human beings. But in spite of not living as pure human beings, there is no hope to be lost. 99.999999, you can say a couple more if you like, 9999% of people are not perfect. There are a handful only of perfect people. So in our lives, if there is something that pulls us apart as to what is right and what is wrong, then that requires complete self-searching, self-analysis, and if that is not possible, then we go to a guru, have a private consultation with a guru, or psychologist, or psychiatrist, one that is capable of advising, where the pros and cons are weighed, and sometimes one has to be cruel to be kind. It could be legitimate, yes. So every circumstance has its own particular answer. When it comes to one's duty, when it comes to one's dharma, and the action to be taken to fulfill that dharma, whatever it is, we cannot have a blanket answer, but every specific problem must be handled individually, and believe you me, there's no problem, as I said yesterday, to which there is no solution. Before the problem is created, the solution is inherent in it. In every seed, the whole tree is there. It is there. Okay, fine. Second question.
The second question really arises out of your answer as well. To what extent, when you are searching in your mind, to what extent should one consider one's early life? How introspective should one be about one's self? Should one try and say, well, I feel like this because I had such and such an upbringing and that sort of thing? Is that sort of thinking useful, or is it not?
That kind of thinking is fairly useful, that if I had such and such a life and these are my present circumstances today. Now, that is just as far as our modern day psychiatrists and psychoanalysts go. Right. But the problems that we suffer today might not just necessarily be of the span of 40, 42, 43 years past. Those problems might go even further back than that. So to the psychiatrist or the psychologist, we go to find certain solutions for these past few years. And there are other methods, meditational methods, and there are gurus that could go into problems that go way, way far back into the psychic self of a person. But remember this, Oscar Wilde has said that there's no saint that did not have a past. Huh? And there's no sinner that does not have a future. Okay. There's no saint that did not have a past, and there's no sinner that does not have a future. So we're all saved. Okay. There's no eternal damnation. Right. Anyone? Yes.
As a result of my husband going on a deepening weekend, he had a marvellous day on the Monday. Since then, he hasn't. What is there one can do about it to give him more marvellous time?
Oh, yeah. Now, is that your husband sitting behind you?
Yes.
Next time you let him sit in front of you. Okay, that's very practical. And then if he sits in front of you, you push him on. Come, be happier, boy. There's the lady. Sorry. Yeah.
Yesterday you talked about a dreamlike quality in life. When you find the divine love becomes more important than the material life. And then the material life takes on a dreamlike quality. I wanted to ask you, it is then follows that this life living in this dreamlike quality becomes very happy. It embellishes life rather than detracting from it, even though it's dreamlike. Is that right?
Beautiful, yes. But there are two ways to experience that. A person, a psychotic person, a neurotic person, who will experience a dreamlike quality and think that that person is experiencing bliss. And that could be an absolute hallucination. While a self-realized man who will regard the whole universe to be a dream and really know and feel the experience of the dreamlike quality and feel and know the experience of himself and is able to discriminate between the reality that is in him and the dream or the unreality that is outside him. So the difference is there, a very big difference between the neurotic person and the self-realized person. To the neurotic person, that which he or she experiences is real there, like being in a dream. While you are dreaming, the dream is not false to you. You are living in that dream. It is real to you. You only recognize the experiences of the dream to be a dream when you wake up. But the self-realized man is in a wakeful state, and he can discriminate, he can recognize, he can diagnose, and he can do everything possible to know, because he feels it, he experiences it. He knows the difference between reality and unreality, and he lives the life of reality all the time. One lives the life of unreality, the neurotic person, while the self-realized person lives a life of reality. So there is a difference. It's a very fine difference which might not be able to be seen by any eyes. Like, let us take sound. Sound at a very, very low pitch is inaudible, and sound at a very, very high pitch is inaudible also. Yet, the range, how separate they are. One is at a very low pitch, one is at a very high pitch, yet they both are inaudible. So human beings, with our limited perceptions, we go on various appearances, and we don't really understand them. And so that is why we have devised our various meditational systems, whereby we can find that which is real and that which is unreal, by exercising and putting into use the deeper levels and deeper layers of our mind, so that our discriminatory power becomes more keen, has a sharper edge, and we can see better.
So we enjoy it better.
And we enjoy it. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I wanted to thank you too, and there's another thing I wanted to say.
Could
Was
you repeat the questions, please?
Okay.
Before answering them?
You want to thank me, right?
I want to thank you
We
for
can't hear the questions.
becoming a householder.
Before
Although
becoming a householder,
although you didn't want to be.
although you didn't want to be.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Can you tell us about that? Shall I?
I wanted to thank you very much.
Oh, thank me. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, thank you.
Why did you want to?
Hello.
Why didn't you want to?
Why didn't I want to?
I mean, was she correct in saying that she didn't want to become a householder?
Yes.
She wants to know if he wants to know if it's true that you didn't want to become a householder.
Yes, I wanted to become a monk. Yeah, from childhood, my desires were to become a monk. And I went all around the various monasteries and caves and Himalayas and met gurus and gurus and gurus. And 99% of the gurus I met were bogus gurus. Yeah. and that guided me this way and that way, and in every way. Some told me heaven was down there, and some said it's up there, and some said it's north and south, and until I found it's within. Okay, so all these kinds of gurus were there that guided me here, there, and the other, but I was not convinced of the teaching. Yes, inherently, I wanted to become a monk. But listening to those gurus, if I had to follow their path, I would have not become a monk, but a monkey. Right. So, of course, nevertheless, that's by the by, but I after getting out of varsity university, and then I met my real guru. That made a man out of me from a monkey. Okay. She's laughing too. I believe she's slightly spastic, is she? Yeah. And so, of course, my guru insisted that he says that we know your destiny is to be a spiritual teacher. You're born for that. But you're not going to teach monks. You're going to teach householders. So what you do is go and live a householder's life. Become a householder, gain the experience, because if you are going to teach householders, then if you have the experience and know the problems of householders, then you'd be able to guide them in a better way. You would be guiding not from book knowledge, but from experience. And that is why, through the injunction of my guru, I came down back from the Himalayan caves onto the plains, and I got married, met a lovely woman, a beautiful wife, lovely children, went into very big business, doing six-figure turnovers several times over every year, and I felt then the time was ready now to renounce all that after fulfilling all my duties, providing for all those that I was responsible for, so that they would not have any difficulty whatsoever. And here I am. Here I am. I possess 2 shirts only. The one goes to the wash while I wear the other one. That kind of thing. But that's an exaggeration. But what I'm trying to tell you is this, that I have no attachment. I have no attachment to anything whatsoever. I live in this world with you. I like to be with you. I was telling some people yesterday that the day of the gurus that sit on pedestals, those days are over now. Right? Those days are over now, where you go to a guru hat in hand and say, yes, boss. No. You go to the guru according to the feeling you have in your heart. A guru is to be regarded as a brother if you have those kinds of feelings. He is to be regarded as a father if you feel like a child to him. And in all those ways, the most important quality is the quality of love. Is the quality of love, and that love must come from you, from your heart, to a certain extent, and more so inspired by the guru. Now, what has been happening through all these years, that so many misconceptions have been there, and those misconceptions in the minds of the people were created by the gurus themselves because they wanted to be worshipped. Now, that is wrong. That is very wrong. A true guru is a person that must be with you, mix with you. If you fall ill now, I will nurse you. Right. If you get hurt, I will wrap bandages around you. If your head is sore, I will rub your head for you. If you need any wisdom in your head, right, I will give you that. Right. If you need love, the love is always there. A guru should be like a well. You come to the well with your bucket. Now, if you bring a small bucket, you will draw less water. And if you bring a big bucket, you will draw more water. And as Margaret says, Gita says, that if you bring a thimble, you only get a thimble full of water. Which is true. So those are the duties of gurus, real gurus. They must mix with the people, be with the people, for the people, of the people. You know the story. As long as you people are benefiting by your meditational practices, that is my joy. Now, being a millionaire, fine. Why do I discard all this to serve humanity? Because I have experienced the joy of becoming one with divinity. And what I am just simply doing is sharing my joy so that you too can enjoy the joy. It's just so simple. What's happening to this? It's getting afraid of me too. Yes. Now, afraid of me. That's what the gurus preach. They preach fear. Fear. Many people tell me that they used to meet this guru, that guru, and they couldn't relate because they feared. Now, we don't teach that. We teach love. Love. The guru must be a friend. He must be a pal, a mate, a father. All those things. There must be love. We, through our meditational systems, which are very scientific, teach how to expand the heart, which means the core of one's personality, not the organ. The core of one's personality is called the heart. Through our meditational practices, we teach how to expand the heart. The expansion of the heart is measured by how much a person loves. Now, I, the teacher of the expansion of the heart, if I am to become fearful to you, then all my teachings are wrong. I must first be the prime example of my teachings. Then only should I teach. So therefore, you would find me very easy to get along with. Yes, always. Yeah, and little children and dogs and animals love me too. I love them. That's why. Yes, quite right, love. Good. Does that answer you? Really? Next, yes, please.
Right, something about dreams. Although it wasn't programmed yesterday to see you,
Mm-hmm.
you pointed twice at me and you wanted to see me. Now, before I came, I told them that I saw you previous night in my dream.
Right.
We had a conversation together. In fact, I said exactly what you told me.
Right.
Not word by word.
Mhm.
And it just and then it happened the next
Good.
day.
Bless
Could you
you.
please
Bless you.
explain me something?
Yes.
Was
Do you want to know the mechanics of that? So that. Oh, I must repeat the question. Now that was quite long, wasn't it? I'll do it. I love you. What can I do? Anything for love, really. The only reason why I speak this way, that the intimate, informal, is to make you feel that I am of you, one with you. I don't see you separate from myself. Yeah. Thou art that. All this is that. Fine. What the gentleman said now, I met Manuk. I saw Manuk in the hall and I beckoned to him twice. I want to see you about something. Good. First time I saw him in the hall and I said, I want to see you. And I felt something. As soon as I saw him, I felt something. Here's some message. I must tell him. I must speak to him. So I called him. So after the meeting last night, we met in one of the rooms there. And I spoke to Manuk what his problems were. Before he started speaking to me, I started telling him, do this, that. Fine. And of course now Manuk says that that was yesterday, but the day before that he had the dream where he heard me speaking to him the same things in the dream which I repeated to him in person yesterday afternoon. Is that true? Yes. Right. Now he wants to know the mechanics of it. Yes. Actually very simple. Very simple. Very simple. When a person has a sincere desire, to find an answer to a problem, and he is involved and has faith or love for a guru, this all of you will experience. Yes, you too. This all of you will experience as you get established in your meditation, that whenever there is a sincere desire to find a solution to a problem, and you project your mind towards your guru, if you accept him as a guru, with the love and the faith and the sincerity and the honesty, you will find your answer immediately. It can come to you in many forms. It can come to you in the form of a dream, for one. It can come to you in the form of you passing a bookshop and something will just make you go and buy that book. And you open the book and your answers are there. Right. It will come to you, you're shaking your head. Did you have that experience? Good. Malcolm Harrison, right. You have the desire, you will just meet someone accidentally somewhere. Right. And the answer will be flashed to you in a jiffy. Right. You will, in so many ways, there are a million combinations. But if your sincerity and your desire is there, if you have, because of sincerity, honesty, and doing your practices regularly, have formed the link between yourself and your guru, ask, the answer is there. Seek, and thou shalt find. Knock, and the door's opened. Always, always, always. Be assured of this. Be assured of this. And this has been a promise from eternity. This has been the promise of a divine spirit from eternity, and that spirit has expressed itself in very, very many various forms throughout all periods of history. Okay.
The proper use of our real name can help us and bring us closer to who we are. Then why aren't we all given our real names?
Yes, true. Good question. Why?
Repeat the question. Repeat the questions.
The question was that if the use of our proper names can bring us to a better realization of ourselves, then why aren't we all given our spiritual names so that we can be helped by it? Is that what it is in jest? I know what you mean. Perhaps in some instances it is not expedient to be given one's real spiritual name. Now, what does a spiritual name mean? A spiritual name only means that at the time of individuation, at the time when a being became separated from its source, when a being became individualized, at that time a sound was caused because of the motion. The vibration caused a certain sound. Now, that sound, a name given would be representational of that sound. Fine. So, by knowing one's real sound from the time of creation and having a name, a beautiful name that carries a message, like Amrit means nectar. The ambrosia, food of the gods, is always sweet. Nectar is sweetness, so he is forced to live up to his name. Right. We have Gita. Right. Gita, the song, celestial song. She has to live her life to be worthy of a counselor, always celestially. Yes, without mistake. Always beautifully. Always beautifully, always helpfully, always wanting, as the celestial divine song would say, to help the world, to make the world flow in a better rhythm, like a song, a divine song. You see? So the purposes are there. Fine. Now, most of you, I think, are on mantra meditation. Now, the mantras that you have is a combination of very many things. Did I discuss this?
No.
This morning, but not this afternoon.
Did I discuss this morning? Someone asked a similar question.
Yeah. It would be good to discuss the same thing this morning, this afternoon. That would be good.
Will it be good?
Yes, very
Okay,
good.
fine. I don't like to repeat things. Never this.
There's
We'll
only
do
a
it.
few people that are here that were here this morning. So.
Okay. So now, most of you, I think, are on mantra meditation. Now the mantras that you have received, you will want to know how I give you a mantra. Now I'm sure Amrit and Gita has explained it to a certain extent, but you'd like to hear something from the horse's mouth. Okay. Fine. Now this is how it works. you fill in a form, you know, before, when you do your preparatory practice, and of course you bring 2 photographs. Now, those photographs, 1 copy is sent to me wherever I am. Fine. Now, I go into meditation with that photograph, using the photograph as a focal point. Now, in the state of meditation, in that state of meditation, there is no distance. All is here and now. So when I receive your photograph and I meditate on you, I discuss with you as I am discussing with you now. Completely, physically as well. It is there in all complete reality. Now through the photograph, I can penetrate when I say I, please not this 1 and 4 penny chemical. They say the human body is only worth 1 shilling 4 pence chemically. Perhaps 2 and 8 pence now, inflation.